There was a lot of pressure from the coalition here in India. The left, for example, were almost willing to withdraw support to the government. At one stage, Dr. Manmohan Singh it went to the extent of saying if they withdraw support, but this needs to go through. Away in Washington, how anxiously were you looking at what was happening back here? Because you'd been part of the negotiations, they were very difficult, and it almost came to naught.
Yes, indeed, it was very frustrating at that time. But he didn't give up, at that time. And, people say that, he's a very good economist. He's a very good in other issues, but he is not an adept politician. But actually, I can tell you, Vishnu, he had worked out that support from the Samajwadi Party at that time. He had worked out the numbers, and he had got a critical support from Dr. Abdul Kalam, a public statement, and that swung it. So even at that time, when he said that, dared the left to go it alone, that he'll go it alone, he knew that he could muster the support.
And the civil nuclear deal with the United States is more than just that one deal, because it seemed to open the relationship with the United States, from distrust to one of our closest strategic partners. So in a sense, the impact of that deal is being felt even now.
Absolutely. In fact, that was missed. The civil nuclear deal was not primarily about nuclear power. It went well beyond that. And it was always that way, because Dr. Manmohan Singh, I can tell you, Vishnu, he knew about nuclear power. When I was in the Atomic Energy, as Secretary to the Atomic Energy Commission in the 70s, at that time you had Morarji Desai as Prime Minister, and he was Secretary Finance and member of the Atomic Energy Commission. So he knew a lot. And he didn't, he learned, from those days, he knew how important that was, because basically it was not just nuclear power in the Tarapur Atomic Power Station, which was at stake. It led to the Nuclear Suppliers Group. It led to a whole heap of other regimes, like the MTCR and so on. And it was basically about denial of all technologies. That's all dual-use technologies, critical, covering virtually all field of activities like biotechnology for agriculture, nanotechnology, across the board. So that opened up. And the nuclear, we didn't get so far from the United States, any nuclear power station so far. But at one stroke, we were able to access the world. And that was thanks to the nuclear deal.
Was it is it your regret that no US reactors have still been constructed?
I don't think so. With this figure, there's a lot of, even now, ignorance on this subject which persists. In fact, when Dr. Manmohan Singh, when he had a lunch, it was not a private lunch, it was a restricted lunch. And he said, I'm going now from here to France, and I'm going to sign a nuclear deal there. And George Bush intervened to say that, look, you don't owe us anything. There is no quid pro quo. I did it because it's the right thing to do. And you should have no compunction in going and signing nuclear agreements with any country. Yes, it's a pity, but even at that time, the US NRC had not cleared its reactors. That is, Westinghouse and the Hitachi reactors were not cleared from their own NRC. Yeah. But it's a pity, but it should take place. I hope it will take place as we move. In fact, we have not moved on nuclear energy. It's a minuscule proportion of our total electricity generated. We need to change that together with solar power and wind power. This, I hope, will be given serious consideration.
Ambassador Sen, the entire issue of nuclear liability was something that came up. At one stage, it almost appeared to potentially derail the entire process that he was so closely involved with. Were you very concerned at that? The issue of liability, of course, pertained to what would happen if there was an accident as a result of the US manufacture of plants in India?
Well, Vishnu, all that legislation has done, it has increased the cost, for the manufacturer, and it has increased costs for the consumer and for the taxpayer, because none of these foreign companies, whether they are Russian or French or anybody else, is going to, as a result of this bill, which is now law,
Yes.
they are not going to pay anything extra. So that's all what has happened. And you have seen that even in Japan, which is so advanced, ultimately what happened after Fukushima? It's the taxpayer which had to bail out the company.
All right, sir. Well, we're out of time on this. Thank you so much for sharing some time with me and doing this. Thank you very much indeed.